Hi guys, good morning. I'm back again with the new issue, and today we will be discussing about the ad transfer payment API. This is the particular issue that we are going to talk today, and we are going to do two things here. Okay, we'll make the application modular first, and then we'll be adding the payment transfer API as well. So if you like to check the previous issues that we have worked with, you can go into this issues list and then see the closed issues, and I have the related branches for that as well. And if you like to see the videos for development of any particular features or topics, then you can also check out the video from there. Okay, so let's get started on this in our particular topic today, which is the at transfer payment API, since we are building the payment API. Okay, so to do this, I'll be creating the branch called, I think, is 16. The issue, sorry, 12. So it's issue number 12. Okay, so first thing that we'd like to do here is we'll be uh, making our applications to be a modular one, and then make the things, let's say, in a different modules. Okay, so that our application contains multiple modules. The main idea behind this is like the external communications or anything that we want to have as part of a different module. So, and the core business we want to have inside a different module. So that the external thing is decoupled from the business that we are trying to build. Okay, let's just get started on this, and in between we'll be talking about why we're doing this and what are the benefits of doing this approach. Okay. All right. So do this. I'll be just adding new. I think the module. All right. So is from is simply the Maven module. Nothing much. All right. So I'll be using the Java 11 and nothing much. So next. So what is the name of the module is, let's say, the payment domain or something like that. Okay, so this is the domain module that we're trying to build, and then nothing much. So we have the group ID, active file payment domain, and the person is this. So once I do this finish, okay, so in our pom.xml we'll have one module called this. So this is the payment domain module, and then we don't have anything here. All right, pretty fine. So the another thing we'll be doing is like our application, the main applications, okay, the Spring Boot application, we'll migrate that from the root to the application module. So what we'll do is like we'll create the, let's say, this one, Maven, fine, and then I'll call this as a, let's say, parent as a payment application. So uh, payment app or something like that. Okay, so there will be two different modules. Anyway. Fine. So we have the payment app, we have the payment domain, uh, and what we will be doing now is like we'll be just moving all of these dependencies from our, let's say, um, the the main applications to the actually the app, since the all the source code. So I'll be just moving this, let's say, refactor, move directory. All right. So from where we want to move is we want to move this inside the, let's say, the not inside the payment API, and then the payment app, and this is the source that we want to do. All right. So I think doing this, we'll be moving the source inside the payment app. Okay, refactor, no problem. Then I think there is no any override. All right. So basically, the we want to move these all are the sources that we are currently writing as the application. Mm, Initially, we had just one module, so that's why I want to move this as part of the payment app. So let me just delete this, and then we'll be moving this, let's say, inside the this refactor, move direct, sorry, refactor, move directory to where? inside the payment app. Okay, refactor. Fine. All right. So we moved all of these source codes into the payment app. All right, which is pretty fine. And then of this poem.xml also we can just leave this as a parent and this and that. So since all of these Spring dependencies and these independencies is more related to the app module, okay, so we can just move this poem.xml inside this poem.xml. That's it. So let me just copy this from all of this from here and then place that this thingy to that. So we don't have to worry about this and that description, core properties and dependencies and this and that. So I'll be just moving this from, okay, and then move this to something else. So all right, so now if you see, the parent is the payment application and the module is payment app, which is pretty much fine. And then this is the thing, and then we have all of our dependencies. So inside the payment, if you see here, still we have the parent as a Spring Boot. We'll update that later. For now, let's leave it as this. All right. So mm, okay, so it's doing this. We have the parent is this, and we have this is by the Maven, and we are done. So it has two different, let's say, the modules, which is payment domain and payment app, and it inherits from the Spring Boot applications. It has all the descriptions and this and that. So I think, yeah, yeah, this is fine. Map construct, this and that. Okay, so map construct will be something I think that will be just related to uh, the app module. So I will just we can just have this as a, it's not 14 actually, it's a 11 version. Okay, source target. So this is fine. I think this is fine. So okay, and here as well, it's not a I thought I provided 11. All right, so now we have the two different modules in our applications. The main packaging just have two different modules, and which is inherited from the Spring parent, Spring let's say boot parent. But we'll be refactoring this as well later. Okay, since the only the app payment app will be inherited from there. Okay. So let's just compile and make sure that we have done the things properly. Okay, so first I started building the payment domain app and then started building the payment app. Okay, sorry, the payment domain and then payment app. Uh, Once everything is ready, then our jar is ready. Okay, so if you see now, we don't have anything here, I think. So inside the target, or let's say inside, we have two different modules. So inside the payment app module, we should have some target, and then inside the target, we should have the jar that we're looking for, inner bank payment. Pretty cool, right? So, all right. So in this way, we just have the two different modules. This way, we can make our application much more modular. And then uh, we also have the layer, or say the module decoupled from one type of module to another type of module. Basically, what we are trying to do here is like the payment app is the module which will handle the external communications, the storage, this and that. Okay, and payment domain is something that we are trying to build our business. So we are just trying to decouple into two different modules so that the payment domain will always hold the businesses for us, and then payment app will actually hold the and that business to tie up with the different external communications. Okay, either from the HTTP call and also the storage, something like that. So these are the external things. Anyway, fine. So we did this. Let's start building the second thing as part of our issue, which is the add payment transfer API. All right. So in this case, I'm going to start from the payment domain. Okay, since we want to facilitate one business which will actually do the payment. So in that case, what we have to do is, let's say I'm just going to have one package. Maybe I'll just copy from the package that we already have. Okay, something like this. So we have the ecom.eaglesor as a base package, so we can use the same thing. So inside the Java, I'll create one package and then the let's say the payment. So yeah, and domain or let's say payment. This is sufficient, I think. Payment application and payment. Uh, yeah, we can just have it. So com.eaglesor. Okay, payment, which is fine. Having this package, what we'll do is like we'll have a couple of packages inside this. So one packages would be let's say the model. We want to have the model, and then the other, another package could be something like this. We want to have let's say the use case, payment use case, right? So payment use case. Okay, let's have two things for now. Okay. So inside the model, the main idea behind this is like we want to decouple the models from either from the request and responses or from the storage. All right. Let's just think as we are going to prepare a pizza. The payment domain or let's say payment use case that we are trying to build is a kind of pizza that we are making. So to make the pizza, we don't use all of the storage that we have in our system, right? Or you have in your home or something like that. So this is the model that will actually hold what are the ingredients that is needed to cook the pizza. But storage is something that is more related to the how I'm going to store that different things in my home, okay, or in my kitchen. So if we just couple these two things, let's say with the things that we need as part of our preparation or as part of cooking and with the storage, then that becomes so much coupled, and then you um, all of a sudden what happens is like your business is not cleaner, all right, because you have to think about how I'm going to have this storage, and then you are just um, coupling your business logic with the storage mechanism. Now you have to add lots of transients kinds of things in your entity just to facilitate the let's say the transient properties, something like that. So eventually, your business is so tightly coupled with your storage. If we just use the entity that we're doing before, okay, if you see back here is the account entity or something like that, if we are going to use account entity for all of our business processing, then how I'm going to store this data is becomes much more crucial in that let's say our model classes, and then that starts uh, bringing that starts noising your course. So to overcome this problem, we can just isolate the things. We can just we isolated the requests and responses from our entity previously. Now we are going to isolate the our models from the storage and our models from the request. So that way, the models is something that will actually do the business for us, and the storage is something that will actually hold the data out of it. Is not necessarily that the way you do your business is exactly the same way you're going to store your data. Okay, it could be totally different. We don't care about it. It's just a storage. How you are going to store that data comes there. But the business is something that we're more concerned with. So let's just start with the model. Normally, what I prefer when I'm developing new application is like I start from the domain module. Okay, I intend to write in different kinds of models, and then I will start writing the use cases, and everything is fine. Then, if my business is good, looks good out of this, then I'll think about how I'm going to store this data out of my repository. Okay, what is the best way to do it as part of let's say because you are having the storage, so that means you are going to write the data inside the inside the disk. So what is the best way to do it? How I'm going to get the data from the storage back again? So now you are trying to optimize your storage layer differently than it's not coupling the things with your business. You can just write the business first. You don't have to worry about any other layers first. And then once you are done and your business is pretty much fine, excellent, then you are thinking about how I'm going to store the data and these kinds of things. So now we have the separate concern about it, on the three different layers. All right. So to do this, I'm going to just let's say have one class called a payment, okay, which is the payment model. All right, so I'm just having this is the payment class. Eventually, what it will hold is like private string as, let's say, the creditor debtor account number or debtor creditor account number. Again, here as well, I'm just starting with a very minimal and then information that we need as part of a business processing. Once this grows, we can also update the models, and then also we can update the use cases as well. So for now, we just need the debtor account information, creditor account information, and then we need the money, so which is less the amount and the currency, right? So doing this, yeah, string currency. Doing this, we can facilitate a very basic, let's say the transfer. Okay, so now I think inside the pom.xml of this, we don't have any Lombok and then something like that. So what we can do is like Lombok is something that we can share between the different modules. So in that case, I'm just going to copy this out of here, all right, and then place in my root so that all of the modules that is inside my uh, payment APIs applications will share this dependency. So yeah, if everything is going to be shared, then I'm going to place that inside this dependency. If that dependency is only related to this either this module and this module, then I'm going to put inside that module only. For example, let's say the Spring dependencies and this and that is only related to this particular uh, mm, payment app module, so the dependency will come there, not inside the payment domain, something like that. This way also we keep the dependencies and everything so clean. All right. So since now I can access the data from here, I think. So yeah, data, which is pretty fine. Okay. So basically we write it the model and then let's go back to the use case. So we want to facilitate the one use case, which is exactly the payment use case, let's say, and very basic. So in this class, okay, at come on, cancel was the problem. Okay. So in this case, what we are trying to do, we are trying to do a payment. Let's say I'll return private public payment or do payment or something like that. So payment, sorry, the payment, okay, and then create apply. Normally in the use cases, we can have the method just called apply or the use case dot apply, right? So this is the payment use case, so you are going to apply that use case. So yeah, we can do that as well. So this is the payment that we did. And this is the thing that we are trying to build. So in this case, let's say what we'll be doing. We'll be doing the all of the things that we mentioned as part of this diagram, right? Eventually, we build this diagram here. If you see this diagram, payment process. If this is just one payment transfer from debtor to creditor, then this is what we need to do. So this the use case will hold all of these kinds of things. So eventually, this is our payment use case. So these all of things will come here. All right. So how I'm going to store this payment. So let's say return no for now. Okay. Um, you have we have to implement lots of features here. So for now, we are just going to persist the payment. That's it. We're not doing anything else. So it's a persistence of payment. So in that case, what I'm going to do, uh, we want one decoupled mechanism to do this payment storage. All right. We don't know how this guy is going to be stored, but we need some service that will actually call, okay, store this payment, please, for me. All right. So in that case, what we can do is like we can just have one package called repository or something like that. So let me have repository, and inside here, what I would say is like I'll create one interface called payment repository. Okay. So yeah, I call it the payment repository. And then I'll say the simply the payment. Maybe I need the saved payment, so I'll say save please, and then payment. That is what I'm trying to say. This is it. And then my use case will, what my use case will do is like maybe the status. Let's have one status. Okay, payment status. So inside the model, I will have called, let's say, the payment status, which is the saved for now. Let's say saved or received. Sorry, enum saved. Okay, it hasn't processed it. We haven't done anything. It's just we are just going to save. So that's why the status would be the payment status. That means in this case, in the use case, what I'm going to do is like the payment dot set status is the status that's saved. That's it. And then what I'm going to say is private final payment repository. This guy will need the payment repository to say that please save it, and just I'll mark this all ask constructor, and then repository just save. This is what I want to do, right? So I did it. I done the things. We have the payment repository, which is exactly saving the payment. And if you see the things, we don't have anything. And let's give this is the model class, so we can give a identifier for this. Okay. So yeah, like this is pretty much clean. Now we can expand this model to store all of the things that we need as part of our business processing. This is the one benefit. We have the storage that is totally decoupled from our use case. We don't care like this guy is going to be stored inside the, let's say, the MongoDB or relational database like MySQL, Postgres, something like that. We don't eventually care. This payment domain is not caring about that, right? It will be a storage storage that will be caring about it. How I'm going to persist it, how I'm going to give you back. Okay, and then we are done. The apply is there, everything is there. So let's go and then just create one test class for this. So create test. All right. So in that case, again, I'll just have one setup, and then for the apply method. Okay. So I think we don't have the test case dependencies in our. So let's move the test case dependencies from the. We copied everything here. Okay. So we Spring Boot started test is there, and we don't have any test dependencies. So we cannot. We are not going to include this as part of our core module. But what we can do is like we can sorry add couple of, let's say, the test libraries. Okay, I'm just going to copy it. So in this case, in our main module, what I'm going to do is I'll just add the some of the libraries. What is for the test? This is the Jupyter engine. This is also for test. We have the Mockito. We have the Jupyter again. It's also the Hamcrest and then Mockito core. So basically, these are the libraries that we can use inside our test cases. So I've just added it. Okay, and I have shared across the all of the modules because eventually we need to write the test cases for all of these modules. All right. So let's go back here and then have inside the test cases. Now we can see the, let's say, the dependencies. I think fine. And then inside the test also fine. Okay. So yeah, fine. So doing this, what we can do is private final or private, let's say, the payment repository, right? Repository. And this is something that we need to mock. We haven't built anything inside the apply as of now. And then what I can say, the mock it to annotation that open mocks please this, right? So yeah, and then and this is the thing that I need to test. So this is the payment use case. This is the use case that I'm interested to test. So use case, that new payment use case, and then this is the mock predefined, right? So yeah, we have this, and then use case. Mm, Eventually, we can create one payment for now. Payment, new payment. Okay, and then I can just pass. What I can say is like a Mockito dot when repository dot save payment, then return payment because yeah, we are trying to verify, and then the use case dot apply whenever the payment is there, and I'm just going to say that asset equals expected is what? Maybe the expected is payment status and dot saved, right? And then the actual is apply that get status. And we can also verify that mockito dot verify. You call the repository out of save, and then you save this guy. Now we are done with this test case as well. If you run this test case, okay. And also moving forward, we can have the let's say develop so the driven development. Okay. So first we are going to have write the multiple test cases, and then we are going to fulfill that test cases out of this our payment use case. So first of all, the test case will fail, and then the test case will start passing. We can try that as well. Okay, so this is done. The second thing that we need to make sure is like in the payment application inside the repository, we can have the one package called payment, right? So we need to have some sort of implementation of this payment repository. So to do that, I'll just define two things. Okay, the payment entity. Eventually, we need this. Okay, so in this case, I'll just mark this as an entity and then data, nothing much, and then the uh, since currently the things we are having here and then the things we are having inside the entity is looks like exactly same, but that doesn't mean these are the duplicates of the these are the redundancy. Okay, they are the totally different layers. So in that case, of course, um, yeah, and in the payment app application in the payment app module, is of course we can add the payment app domain, yes, a dependency of the payment module. Of course, we can add it, right? Because eventually this is the application out of our Merkur. Let's enumerate it. Value, enum type. Okay, fine. Perfectly fine. So what this guy is saying, unable to know, it should be able to resolve now. If you see, we have added the one more dependencies, I think, inside here, which is the payment domain dependency inside the payment as, which is pretty much understandable. So will be building all of our business inside this domain. Even we'll move this account creation process to inside the payment domain as well. So this way we'll keep the business pretty much clean, and then we'll have the storage, and then this guy will start, let's say, having different kinds of nature, and then this guy will start having different kinds of nature. We'll see that later. Okay. So eventually, yeah, this is just a storage, and then currently we are using in a entity-based storage, which is also fine. So yeah, we stored this, and then to do this, let's say I'll just create one payment JPA repository. Okay, this is the interface, and we're going to extend with the JPA repository payment entity of ID type long. This is fine. So we have the payment repository. So inside the payment, so what we can do is like inside the repository out of the payment, or let's do one thing. Okay, I'll just payment. So any external thing related to the payment, we're going to have it here. So payment, maybe the package called mapper, you need mapper, and then the payment dot controller, you may have the, we need to add this as well, so payment dot controller, and then the payment dot repository, right? So let's move that this into this. Yeah, so fine. And in the mapper, what we can do is like let's what add one more mapper, which is the payment mapper, which is again the interface. The implementation will be created by the map construct. So it's a mapper which has the component model of Spring, which is fine. And then uh, you are going to convert back to the payment entity to entity out of model. So payment model, payment model, and again from the payment to model from the entity, right? So mapping is something, that's why this the library like map construct is that much useful for us because we have to do these kinds of mapping. Okay, and then this helps to have things so much cleaner. And also we're completely you see the advantage here, like what we are trying to do. We're trying to build the payment domain. We have our models, which is not any repository specific, and then this guy is free to expand the nature of the business. He does not have to worry about how I'm going to storage, how I'm going to map, how I'm going to listen, maintain the one-to-many relationship, this and that. Either I can do the storage any way that I want, or I can expand the business the way I want to expand this model. So I don't have to worry about having the storage ready while I'm writing the payment domain. You say it like whenever we're writing the use cases test, we didn't worry about, let's say, how I'm going to store it, right? It's just, let's say, the information that I want to store as part of the payment use case. And now here the payment mapper comes here, and then there is a repository. So I need to write the implementation of this, which is the payment repository IMPL. This is a class which implements the payment repository, right? So payment repository. So this is the repository it wants to implement. I think I did some typo. Repo, yeah, repository. So repository. Okay. All right, so now I need to implement this save, which is fine, and then private final. I need the payment JPA repository. I'm saying that I'm going to save this as a part of the JPA repository, and then I'm going to do the mapping when I'm going to store it. So basically, and this is the repository for me. And one of the biggest advantage, another advantage it gives us to, now we have decoupled the repository from the uh, our actual business. All the cachings and this and that should not, like my payment domain should not be worried about how I'm going to cache or who is going to cache or something like. If there is a caching that is really important for us, then we eventually we can just going to hook up this caching inside this repository MPL. So in that way, and this guy keeps clean. Ultimately, what this needs, it needs a data, right? So how quickly you are going to get that data is something that is part of the external thing. How you are going to manage your external components. So that is the answer for, let's say, how quickly and how easily you are going to get that data, right? So yeah, and payment mapper, which is the Spring model, which is fine. And then the inside the save, what I'm going to do is like, yeah, a mapper the to model and the repository and the save mapper the to entity payment, and we're done. We are done. Okay. So we provided the implementation. There is a JPA which is automatically created by Spring Data. Also, we have the entity, and also we have the mapper out of map construct. And the things is ready. Now the last thing we need to have it here is like the API for the transfer. So to do that, okay, let's go in our API contract, api.yml, and add that as part of our contract. So eventually, what I'm going to do is api.p1 payments, let's say, and then inside the payment, this is the post, of course, because we are going to make one payment. Tag is, let's say, the payment tag, understandable, and the summary is make transfer, payment transfer, and then the operation ID is the create. It could be anything, and related to the post. So inside the parameter, we don't have any. Maybe we'll have the request body. All right, and request body is, let's say, the type of application.json, which has the content of what is the we have the content of, let's say, the request body of content, and sorry, the content is application.json. Fine, the content, and then it has the application and that JSON. Okay, and the schema, I think the schema is the reference of, we don't know. We have to define this. And as part of the response body, responses, 200 is going to be there, of course. And in this case, the description is okay, and then the content is again application.json. Okay, and then the schema is again, we don't know. All right, so now it's time to define what you are going to get as a payment, let's say the transfer, and what we are going to give back as a payment transfer. So yeah, let's define as a payment request and payment response. So this is the payment request, which is which has the properties of, let's say, uh, n- let's say the debtor account number. Okay, and this is the type of string. The example is the account number is, let's say, 2222222, and then the creditor account number, and this is also the type of a string, and the example is 33333, something like that, right? So, and then what we have, and I think we need to have amount. So amount is type of number, I think, number, and uh, sorry, number. And we can also give the format, which is, I think, big decimal is the format that we want. And again, the currency, currently is a single currency system, so we don't have to worry about the currency. So this is an example is, let's say, the 200 or something like that, 2000. Okay, yeah. So this is the uh, amount that we are taking. Fine. As part of the payment response, what we are going to do, maybe it's just like the uh, properties, the status only, right, for now. So let's give the status of type is string, saying that is saved. Example is saved. Oh, pretty fine. So let's just use this request and then the responses out of our body. So this is the payment request, and then here as well the payment response. Now we can also say that we're also going to return, let's say, the 400 if there is something wrong. So since we have the common structure for 400, the every endpoint that can have this 400, okay? So we can just define something like this, 400 to this as well, 400 in every cases, because if we don't get any data that is required for us, or we have any user related issue, the data related issue, we have to reply the 400. So we just added the 400 for all of this. All right, yeah, pretty fine. So eventually we have the controller advice to do that, and if there is any issues, it will be cast and sent back to the user. So okay, we define this. Let's just generate the code out of it, and then we are going to implement that. Okay, I'm just going to skip this for to 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 do the things quickly. All right. So what's the problem? Post is payments. Okay, post is repeated. Why? Post payments. What this guy is saying? API. Let's debug this. All right. I think we have the one API v1 payments with the post, and then What's this guy saying? If event post operation ID. Okay, operation ID is repeated. Mm-hmm. Create payment then. So operation ID has to be unique, is saying that throughout the endpoints. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, operation ID makes sense. So let's do this. KISP again. I was thinking that it could be grouped based on this inside the APIs, but seems like it should be unique throughout the API specification, the operation ID. All right. Okay, we created yet, and then let's go back inside the payment controller and then write one payment controller. Payment controller. Okay, and extends the payment API, I think, payment API. And now, sorry, the implements is interface. So implements. And here, what we're going to do is there is a create payment, right? So yeah, and we're just going to mark that as a REST controller, and then we can also give the tag API as a tags as a payment. So here, what we need to have. Currently, I'm just using the, let's say, the use case directly from here, but later we'll have some sort of use case processor which will do all of these things for us. Okay, we don't have to. So there will be a central use case processor which can process any use cases. So we'll introduce that class. For now, I'm just using the payment use case. We know that we need to execute this payment use case from here whenever we get this request. So yeah, mapper, and also we need to have the mapper. So let's add that as part of our mapper. So from the mapper, payment resource, I think, right? Response. All right, we added as a response to a resource, which is the payment model. So from the payment model, you are going to get the payment resource. And here, what we can do is like return, and I'm going to also inject the all constructor, okay, and then the private to final payment mapper, which is the mapper. So saying that, please map back to the resource. So mapper to resource. And whenever I'm going to say you use case that apply, this is the payment use case. So and payment mapper to a modal payment use case. So fine. And I think we can simply create the method in the payment. So yeah, fine. All right. So we are going to create the model, this and this and this and this and this. Yeah. So what we can say is that response entity that okay of body something like this. So I think okay of body of this. Fine. So we did this. So we added the controller. We have this and this and this and that. So we don't have any checks. We don't have any accounting, any no charges, nothing. It's just is going to save the things and then get ready. Um, uh, we have the endpoint ready. So later we can add those features to have the checks, validation, charges, accountings, and also we'll make this controller to use the use case processor or something like that, so that we can use the central processor with some use of some generics, okay, or some type. We'll see about that things. We are going to expand these features, or let's say these applications day by day. So let me see what's the problem. I think there is some problem. Okay, so this guy is saying yes, context load. Yeah, as I mentioned, okay, there is no any bin called payment use case. Exactly. So in that case, what we have to do is like, I'll create one, let's say the payment config class. I'll mark that as a config configuration. And then here I'll say this is the payment use case, this is the payment use case, return a new payment use case, right? And then as part of the dependency, I'm going to take the payment repository, right? So payment repository is going, you have to provide me the payment repository and give it back. I'll give it back to the use case. And let's mark this as a bin. So the Spring bin is ready for us. And since we don't want to have the Spring kinds of things inside our payment domain module, this is the way we will provide the configuration of bin to this. As I said last time, you see these payment applications, or what was that? Test? Yeah. Now this guy helped us. We have the Spring Boot test. It's trying to load all of the contracts context, and then it casts that there is no any payment use case bin in his context. So let's rerun it again, and as well as we can, I think this is edit, which is this payment application. So I think this is the payment app. We can say that payment app. Okay, or even edit configuration. We can simply remove it. I think minus. Why to worry? All right, so everything is done. Let's just run one time and then see the things. And as well as we can add the load test for this. Okay, so we can add that. It's a pretty simple steps. We discussed about this last time. So we can add that and run it. But for now, we are not doing anything much. So let's add a couple of things inside our applications, or let's say uh, in our second another task, we're going to add the load test for this as well, and see the what is the response now, and then what will be the response timing whenever we start adding features to that use case. Fine, so let's go back to the Swagger. Okay, and then in this case there is the payment, which is the payment transfer. So there is the example already. So if you execute this, it got the status of null. Okay, why status is null? Let me just check it. We haven't in the payment use case. Uh, we have the apply the status as a saved, and we return the same state thing. So inside the payment, we haven't added the payment entity. So inside the entity, we have the status, this and that. Okay, pretty much fine. And then the payment controller, we have the two model and two resource. So inside the resource, let's see this implementation. It should be, yeah, the name it should be setting as a name, so it's not a problem. So the only way of the only reason it could be null, why is null is like, mm, let's just check it. Or what we can do is let's add the test case. So we haven't added the test case for this repository, so we can payment JPA repository. What is the payment JPA repository? This is, so let's add the test and then make sure of it. We haven't added the integration test. Let's add it. Okay. Okay. So this is the data JPA test, and this will be the auto wire of payment JPA repository, right? And private. So I'm going to validate the void save, nothing much. So in this case, I have a payment entity of entity, new payment entity, an entity that set, let's say the amount, this status is payment status dot save, and then the entity is, let's just say amount is big decimal dot 10. The entity I've set currency is NRS, entity that set debit account number is 2, and then let's say entity that set uh, debit account is 3. If I say this repository to save of this entity, and then if I return back, let's say the results, and then I'll say that assert that save that get ID is not null. Okay, and then the assertance that assert that save that get status is equals to payment status dot saved something like that. So let's verify the things for our repository first, and then we'll be moving to the next layer. So if you see the mhm, data GPHs, I want to write this. So what was the problem? Is this what this guy is saying? Class not found exception. Okay, couldn't find the class with name. Payment GPG ITS. No. Let's run it again. Okay. Why it should not be fine? Class this. Maybe the public class. That's why. No. Class name. This is resolution of this. Failed. So could not load the class with name. This. Error occurred. The cost by this is could not load the class of this and this and this. So we have the test. We use this test, and then we have the auto wire, and we want to save test the save. So there is a data GPS. What's the issue? Let's check it out. Then another example that we are doing. Yeah, Jeopardy test this and that. So I don't think. hmm sometimes this gives this is a random error. Okay, so because of IntelliJ, let's check the as a console and then see test C and then as a payment entity. What else we have? Okay, so it's not saving the thing, so that's why we have that problem. All right, so initially there is no entry. So what was the cause? It's we're not saving the things. Okay, so let's just check it. Yeah. Once we verify that this test case, then will verify the things. Pretty much fine. So if you see now it's running. So yeah. Okay, so payment use case, payment GPA repository is there. I think it should be doing. So what was the thing we did in the payment repository IMPL? Payment repository IMPL. Let's check the example of that. Okay, in the save to entity, this looks fine. So in the entity, what is the mapping that we have? Yeah, so this was the reason. You know why this guy is debtor account number, creditor account number. In the payment, we have the debtor account. Yeah, we have exactly the same properties now, right? So what's the problem? Debtor, creditor, account number, amount, currency, status. Exactly the same thing. Hmm. ID, debtor account number, creditor account number, amount, currency, the status. This is the crazy. So which is the map construct version that we are using? Let's check it. We have the getter setters, we have the yeah, sometimes with this generated code, I think it is the problem. So the map construct version that we're using is 1.2.4 final. So let's see the map construct if there is any a new map construct version, if there is any issue related to that, or because I think we are doing things fine. So map construct, yeah, this is the latest one, right? So 1.2.4.2 at final. All right, so what could be the things that is not making sure of this? We have the data. Eventually, if you look back as a generated sources, okay, we have the getter setters. So if didn't, okay, what this guy is saying is we don't have getter setter for this. So this is what he's trying to say. What this guy is saying is that class is com. If you go back to the entity and repository, payment entity, yeah, we have the getter setters, right? So we should be able to do the getter setters mapping. And also here we have the we should have the getter setters. Moodle payment. Yeah, there is getter setter as well. So map construct should be able to map that thing. So for now, we can do one thing, okay? I'm just going to remove the data out of this and generate the getter setter and see if this was the issue. All right, so let me just check it. From request to payment is working fine. From let's say the payment response to payment also is working fine. Okay, and from payment to model and model to payment is always empty. So that means I'm not sure. Like, let me just have the getter setters generate the getter setters. Okay, so in this case, what would be the reason that this guy is not mapping? Okay, so compile with this. Well, timing is let's say the 10:42, 43. So this should be generating new class. Yeah, now if you see the things is there. So eventually the problem was it was not able to get the getter setters. So maybe the reason is okay. The reason is the mapper is. But again, if that's the case, how this guy will resolve this? So okay, but I'll check this later and figure it out. Okay. Eventually, was the problem with this data and then the map construct? So maybe the map construct did not find the getter setter while it was generating this guy. But in our okay in our we first trying to have, let's say, the payment domain ready and then payment app ready. So whenever it's doing the payment app, it should be generating the implementation of payment mapper. In that case, it should be able to find the. Okay, I'll check it out, no problem. So I think this will work now, and then uh, I- I'll check it out. What was the issue that data and then the map construct did not work for this particular thing, and I'll let you know, guys. I think it's something related to the data is also trying to annotate the process, trying to process the annotation and trying to change the bytecode, and also the map construct is also need to see that bytecode and find the getter status. If there is no any getter status, it will skip that uh, thing because eventually this guy is mapping based on the parameter name and the getter status out of it. This is the default implementation. Okay. So we can also change the mapper implementation, but I'll check it out, no problem. So let's go back here. I'm sorry, non-equal host, and then see the things, and then inside the payment, transfer, try it out, execute, and it's accept. Okay, pretty fine. So if we go back to the our S2 console and try to see the things, and then test connection, connect, and then payment history, run, and there is the okay currency is null. Yeah, we have to assign that currency. which is system default currency. So we'll make that fix and as we grow the payment use case. Okay, guys, I think this is it for today. I'm going to push this things in the branch 12, and then you can see from there. And in next video, we'll be talking about the enhancing this payment use case and also the introducing the use case processor, this and that. And yeah, we'll talk about the new features of that payment in next video. Thank you. See you then.